All right, welcome everyone. This is Brian Hemmer with The Inevitable You, joined by my great friend Dan Jimenez of Dan Jimenez. uh, Excellent coach, fellow coach, and we always have awesome conversations. We've been in this thread of the law of attraction the last couple of episodes, and these are things Dan and I always chat about just on our own time as well. It's just very fascinating stuff. And I wanted to dive into one concept in particular that seems to always come up in our conversations in kind of analyzing why do things happen for us the way that they do, and how does life how do some of these seemingly meaningless, or I shouldn't say meaningless, but um, coincidences, as some people might call them, show up in our lives, and is there any importance to that? And the term that we like to use is synchronicities. So synchronicities in the context of law of attraction being, again, they can appear as coincidences, but these seemingly unrelated events that occur that can be favorable and be like, whoa, that was weird. Why did that happen? Like, oh, I was just thinking about that, and then this thing happened. Or someone said, I met someone that, was talking about the very thing I was thinking about earlier today. Or, and we'll give some good examples and stories of this. But I think maybe we would start off with defining exactly what is synchronicity. I actually looked up, I was shocked, Dan, that there's a whole Wikipedia page on synchronicity. I did not know this, and it's pretty extensive. But the term, and this was a surprise as well, that it was coined by Carl Jung. So,
Interesting.
yeah, very, popular, well-known psychologist. He also coined the whole idea around or I shouldn't say coined, but made popular the whole collective unconscious. He may have invented it, I'm not sure, but the fact that, or this idea that, we're all kind of connected to one mind, the unconscious collective, everything's connected. And he's done a lot of interesting other stuff within psychology, one of the grandfathers or forefathers. But the way that they describe synchronicity is describing a way to describe circumstances that appear meaningfully related yet lack a causal connection. So again, these coincidences that occur where, it could be that, I think of something, and then, or maybe a classic example would be like, I think everyone's probably experienced this at one point, is you think of someone, maybe you haven't talked to them in a while, and then they text you or they call you, right? I think that's a pretty classic example, right? Signs from the universe, or how you're synced up. I mean, if you just think about the word, like how you're synchronized, like synchronized swimming with the universe, is the universe giving you feedback that you're on the right path, or it's synced up with what you have as your manifestation, right? Like it's delivering the opportunities, or as we talked in one of the previous ones, it can appear as this trail of breadcrumbs leading you to the thing that you're wanting to manifest. So that can again be people you meet, things that you see in the environment, thoughts that you have throughout the day. How you're synced up with the universe is kind of how I like to think about it.
Yeah,
You
I
agree
like
with
that.
that?
Yeah, just a quick distinction for me for like coincidence versus synchronicity.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, everything's subjective, right? So like this is just kind of my perspective on it. When I say coincidence, I think of cooperative incidents, right? It's an incident that's in cooperation with two people, the universe, the environment. The problem, or where that word gets tricky, is the fact that in, we'll say, the collective consciousness, in the universal agreement, at least in American culture or Western culture in general, is that coincidence has an air of being not important, right? Oh, it's just a coincidence,
Right,
right?
right.
So it's like there's this, I don't want to call it a negative connotation, but a meaningless connotation to it. Like, oh,
Right.
that's just, yeah, it's just a coincidence.
Statistical anomaly,
Yeah, not a, it
dumb
happens.
luck, right?
Right, exactly. Versus where we use the term synchronicity being a little bit more, it's exactly the same thing, right? Like these things that cooperatively coincide with each other, uh, they are in sync with each other, but there's the positive aspect, or there's the no, there's some meaning behind this. So
Right, right, right.
just kind of like when I'm using these terms, I've noticed people react more to synchronicity in like a positive way, whereas coincidence is like a writing off a meaningless
Yeah,
versus full of meaning.
100% agree. And if you think about that, okay, you can look at it both ways, right? We're always creating our own reality. We're always placing meaning on things. So we can look at the same data point. One person can say, uh, not very much meaning to it, just a coincidence, dumb luck. The other person can say, no, 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 that's the sign. That's the evidence that the universe is responding to me, and I'm on the right path. And so if you look at those kind of like different points of view, those different meanings, the question that I would ask is then, which one's more empowering? Like, do you get much value or empowerment from just chalking it up to luck, or saying, oh, it's a coincidence, a statistical anomaly, dismissing the fact or any notion that the universe, the system, might be responding to your thoughts, your emotion, your vibration that you're putting out there, right?
Mhm.
So um, even if you just think of that notion alone, that like by putting a different meaning on it or viewing it slightly different, that it actually becomes more empowering, whether it's
What
true or not, right? Like we don't know. We don't have any, there's no way to know,
right.
maybe until we go to the other side, and right, like
Just here's what I would say, right? Like we all know stories and putting meaning to stuff is powerful. Like
mhm,
humans put meaning to everything. Like in an example like this, when you see a coincidence or a synchronicity, typically we're talking about it in a positive way. And when you put the positive meaning to it, of like, oh man, this happened in alignment with what I want to do, that's very empowering. You're going to put meaning no matter what. And sometimes the meaning you put on it is this has no meaning,
right,
right?
right.
But humans, the same people who are really quick to dismiss the meaning of synchronicity are the same people who put a fuck ton of meaning on something like, I didn't get a text message back in the time that I expected to get a text message back.
Right, right.
This person's terrible. They hate me. I'm ghosted. Like all of these types of things that we put meaning on. It's like, no, all that happened was you didn't get a text message back.
Right, right.
But in these terms, right, like the power of choosing meaning over something, it's a conversation we could have for another time, but like you're going to do it no matter what. So as long as you're doing it to your benefit versus your detriment, whether you believe in stuff or you don't believe in stuff, like
Yeah,
uh, that's a very proven thing. Like
yeah,
humans are meaning making machines. So you
yes,
might as well make good meaning because
yeah,
it's in a positive way.
yeah. I agree. I think so. Might as well make a powerful, meaningful story out of it than not, right? And actually, very synchronistic of that comment. I was actually prepping for a client this morning, new client that came in. That was one of the things that they put in their model of the world on what they wanted to work on, was this anxiety that pops up when they don't get the text message back from a new girl that they meet. And all of a sudden it's this old story. Oh my God, what if they don't like me? I'm not good enough. Oh, I'm a piece of shit. I knew it. See, no,
right?
no, no. Maybe they're, exercising. Maybe the other person's like, who knows, right? Like, but that automatic story that happens and will create, like you said, a whole lot of disempowering meaning around it. Um, Again, just a very powerful point and very synchronistic of the one that you use there.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
Also, I want to just touch on too, like again, from like more of a practical perspective, you could say that, oh, because I am now thinking of something, and we touched on this in previous episodes, just because you've now primed your brain, right? It's the reticular activation system. You're priming your brain to find the things in your environment. So yeah, okay, we can philosophically discuss, is it the universe responding and blah blah blah. We can get really metaphysical with this, which I lean on more on that side. But from a practical perspective, you're priming your brain now to find the things that are what you would consider a synchronistic event that was once unrelated, now becomes related. And it's like, oh, there it is, there's more evidence, there's the thing. Like, so again, from a strictly neural programming perspective, it it empowers you. Like, it empowers you to think of things as connected. And science is even proving this again with quantum physics. Everything's connected. Everything's energy. So is it that crazy to think that, yeah, the way I'm thinking and feeling, the vibration, the frequency I'm emitting is creating things in my environment that are attracting and repelling? I don't think so.
yeah, no, absolutely.
So again, we have a ton of examples of this. I gave one kind of classic one that people have probably experienced. You think of someone, they text or call you, you know, I can't tell you how many times in conversations with Dan, I'll bring something up and he's like, dude, I just saw something the other day or this morning on social media, and is this exact concept? Or you might notice numbers. And again, you could argue, okay, you look at the clock enough times, you're going to see 11:11 or 3:33. But like, when it's paired with something very specifically, you might think of, for me, my grandfather passed away on November 11th. And if I think of him and then I glance at the clock and it's in that moment, it's 11:11, like, that's okay. That's not a coincidence, right? Um, I had a client last week, and I was covering a tool. It was a new tool I created, just like kind of came up in session, and it was talking about log jams of energy. So if you think of like log jams in a river, and if you think of abundance as flow and it's a river, and if you have log jams in your consciousness, right? Like, what does that do for your flow of abundance? And then that right after that session, he sends me a video of some guy, a random guy on social media, talking about log jams. So it's like, you know, these crazy kind of, like, you're like, whoa, that's just weird, right? Um, Dan, I want you to share the example you gave me just before we hopped on the call here of a synchronistic event.
Yeah, I mean, I've always viewed synchronicities just in general as like a calming thing for me, right? Like I see them and I interpret it as like, hey, it's a sign I'm on the right path, right? It's a sign that I'm moving towards what I want to be doing. And um, sometimes I get it as messages. Like I'll ask a question to the universe, to God in prayer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And usually within about 24 to 48 hours, I'll get like a response.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something I've been starting to notice probably around 6 years now when I first started kind of, deep prayer. This is more of a religious background when I started, and now it's kind of shifted more to just a general spiritual, prayer. But I had asked this question the other day. I was journaling and going through a particular tough time in one of the areas in my life right now, and just struggling like with what to do. And I was just overcome with like all of these negative things that were happening. I kept getting text messages and emails of like how basically I was messing up like left and right. And it's a situation that's, particularly it's in my control, and also I'm physically not present to handle it because I'm living 3,000 miles away from
Yeah.
the situation,
On an
and
island,
on an
literally.
island, right? And so, I'm spend all my waking hours trying to like through the physical mind and Newtonian physics of matter moving matter. Okay, how do I fix this? Okay, I'm going to come up with a plan. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to write out a calendar. I'm going to write out my from my military days. I'm going to write out different courses of action. Okay, course of action one, pros and cons, and course of action two, and what are the risks? What are all of these types of things? And I was getting so overwhelmed and getting in circles and like knotted up about it, that as I was journaling, I was just like, I just want some more clear guidance in what to do right now. And I'm really struggling with this.
Mhm.
So went to bed, next day woke up, morning routine, which is basically get up, wash some dishes, get the kids ready for school, pack their lunches, make sure they ate breakfast, um, dropped them off at school, and I just sat in my car and I was just like, a moment of like peace, I guess you could say. The kids are gone, I'm here, and then all of a sudden the dread started coming in of like, when I get home, I'm gonna have to sit down, I'm gonna have to start planning again, just start like taking action in these areas, but I don't really know where to take action or what to do. I've kind of exhausted some of the first things that I had come up with, and start getting knotted up. I decided to start driving home, and just as I'm like, what the fuck should I do right now? This lifted pickup truck comes flying by me and pulls in front of me, and there's a giant window sticker that says faith over fear. And it was just like, ah. And
Subtle message.
I, it used to be way more subtle, but like the more I'm open to receiving this stuff, like the more literally just in my face, the life kind of shoves it
Yeah.
uh, for me, and tears, and I was crying the rest of the drive home, and it's just like you know a profound sense of like peace for me.
Yeah.
You could easily shrug it off as like, hey, not a big deal, right? Like that
Yeah.
just happened. Lots of people have bumper stickers and window
Can you
stickers.
believe this asshole? He's cutting me off. Gee, like,
I kept off in traffic, like, um, but yeah, for me, it was insanely calming, very peaceful. The
yeah,
rest of the drive home was like
it's the
nice,
message you needed in that moment.
100%.
Yeah. Love it. Yeah. Great story. Great example of it. And like, that's it. Like, that is the essence of it. And I was, and thinking about examples for our chat today. It's like, I know I have so many examples of how this happens, but they're usually pretty minor. And like, I could think of maybe some in the past, few days to a week, but there's literally been, it has to be in the thousands at this point of like, again, like in conversations that we've had over the years, like how many times we've talked about a synchronistic event. And it can be very minor things like a bumper sticker on a car that was very profound in that moment, right? So it, one example that I have, I guess maybe that's a little bit bigger than just a minor example, was this is probably started around the beginning of the year, but I had reconnected with a past client of mine, and he's slightly younger than myself, young man, doing well already. And so nothing, not like serious challenges or issues or problems he's wanting to work on. He's really just wanting to improve himself. He's really wanting to become the greatest version of himself. So he's very forward thinking, and it's about progress and growth and acceleration. And it's I really enjoy my work with him. It's a really fun, he's a great client. Like, we get along, we vibe, we're kind of in the same. I'm a little bit outside of his age group, but we can still connect, on a lot of different things. And it just got me like rethinking and re kind of emphasizing or honing in on the type of people that I want to work with. I'm like, man, I just remember having the thought that stayed with me for however long, that like I would just love to have more people like this, more clients like this. I love working with young men that are, this forward thinking. And it was within a matter of days, I got one person reached out of nowhere, through the DU website that I'm connected with, that they, kind of source things out to coaches in the area, or coaches in their alumni group. That one actually didn't work out because I found out there was some aspects of that particular client that, I wasn't, it may not have really been, as enjoyable as I thought, or as a different kind of demographic but it helped me kind of hone in, right? That manifestation, the attraction, the what I'm wanting, the kind of people I'm wanting. And then it was, within another couple of days or weeks that I had two more people just seemingly again reach out of nowhere. Like, I wasn't doing anything really active. I wasn't out there posting a bunch of stuff on social media or sending emails, and they just kind of came out of nowhere. And so tomorrow I'm actually meeting with one of them that decided he was ready to go, man. He like got the model of the world done, like signed up. He's like, yeah, let's go. I'm ready. And it was right in that demographic of what I've been thinking about and emotionalizing. So it was this, the meaning I put on it and the story I tell about it was a response from the universe, that it was like it was starting to deliver these people that fit that profile, right? That, wanted to work with me, wanted to work on themselves. And, they took the initiative to reach out. It wasn't anything I was physically doing, more of. I just changed my energy about it, my thoughts around it. So
Yeah,
that's
it's
kind
awesome.
of, yeah.
And just talking with you for years, there's moments where you'll get into the conversation will be very, like I was saying with myself, like Newtonian, and very like, well, what's the
Right.
tactic I need to do and to get the thing, or I need to work harder to do this, or I need to
Yeah.
spend more time on this.
What's the right marketing strategy to go out and get these?
And it's a the energy behind it, as we talked in previous episodes, is a I don't have clients and I want clients, but I don't have them. But
Mm.
I don't know what to do to get them because I don't have them.
Don't have enough, have a lack of clients, got to figure out how to get them. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's lack, 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 lack. I don't have, I don't have, I don't have. So you get the same thing. Oh, you want not having clients? Here's not having clients, right?
Right.
Like,
Or here's some that you don't want, that you've been, either irritated by or emotionalizing in the half empty way.
for sure. Now you're in a conversation of, eh, I always notice it as more of a playfulness and more of a daydreaming type of vibe,
Yes.
right? We've been told over and over again, stop daydreaming and take this seriously and all of those things. But man, when you can get into that position, like beginning of the year, you had this person and made you start thinking like, wow, I really like this. This is cool. I would love more people like this. But
Yeah.
I would love more people like this because this was so fun and exciting. I really enjoy helping people like this. Man,
Yes.
I really had a great conversation with this guy. Oh, this conversation with this guy was awesome. I love talking to him. I was so glad I could help him in this position. And
Yeah.
so the energy behind that is, man, people like this are awesome, and I love that they're in my experience. And
Right.
so therefore, you're getting more of that because the universe is like, oh, you like people like this. Okay, yeah. Because
Right.
before you were telling me, me as the universe, you were telling me you really liked not having clients, and then you also liked being stressed out over these
Right.
type of clients. And so now you're just changing what you want and you're asking in that way.
Right. That's what the universe was hearing, that, oh, this is the vibrational state you're in. So, okay, we'll continue to provide for that emotion. That's the vibrational state you want to have. Okay. Like it doesn't care what it is or how much it is. It just cares how you're vibrating about it.
What's the energy? What's the feeling? It's
Yeah.
like, going to the money situation, because that's always the easiest, or I should say, like the most clear example for me. I want $1 million. I want $1 million, right? But like the underlying factor is I don't have it and
Right.
I need it to feel this way. Versus like, man, there's so much abundance in my life. Like, oh, this is amazing. I really enjoy it, because ultimately, really, the only reason you want the money is to feel good, right?
Yeah.
Because you having this, then I won't have to worry about this problem. I won't have to worry about that problem. I won't have to worry about this problem. I can go on vacation. I can do all these things, and all of those things are in alignment with the vibration of like abundance and fun and joy and play and date
Freedom. And yeah.
and peace and ease and yeah.
Yeah. 100%. And that's it. I mean, that's it. That's really where this all always comes down to, dude. I mean, again, like in our just personal conversations and looking at why do these kind of synchronistic events kind of happen? 99 times out of 100, you could boil it down. I could boil it down to, oh, yeah, because I was having this kind of level of thought and emotion around it. I do still think there are coincidences, or maybe we just aren't aware enough. I think that's probably the more of the case is there's things we can't understand with our human brains until maybe it's like a year later, like, oh, that's what that thing was about, or like, but it's, I know, I mean, I have no doubts about it. It's all a result of how the system is interacting with my system, meaning how I'm thinking, feeling, vibrating, and the inspired action that I'm taking as a result as well.
Totally. One caveat I'd like to throw out there,
Yeah.
and I don't mean to throw like a whole wrench in the discussion, but if you're thinking of doing something harmful, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or if you're like, oh man, I'm really just tired of being here. I just want to end it. And then you see like a sign for like a bridge. Like, oh, I'm coming to a bridge, right? Like, hey,
Uh,
here's my synchronicity. Maybe I should jump off this bridge, right? Like, it could easily be skewed in a negative direction.
for
And
sure.
I want to go into like the philosophy of like, well, is the universe just giving you what you asked for, or not? But if we stay on the lines of what is empowering to you and what's disempowering to you,
Uh-huh.
is putting the meaning to I want to end it and then seeing a sign for a bridge up ahead, right? Like, is that empowering or disempowering?
Well,
you know?
yeah, I know. I think if I'm understanding you correctly, it's is the fact that you got the sign that connected, or was the synchronized with the thought of that, is that empowering?
Right.
Yes.
Putting
Right, like, because it's always, as we talked about last time, law of attraction, it's always working, it's never not working. Like, it's always responding to how you're feeling. And but it's also disempowering if you're finding all the evidence that could lead to your demise, right? Like, okay, see, yep, that, nope, I hear it, I hear the message, okay, yeah, I'm gonna go do it, I'm gonna end it. Like
Totally.
that's the story aspect of it, like that you touched on earlier, that is not empowering, right?
And this is where I'd say, the caution comes from. It's the same thing with the text message that we said before.
Yeah,
She didn't respond. I told you, she
yeah,
doesn't like me. It's like that's a sign from the universe that she doesn't like me. And it's like, you're choosing to view it that way, but I wouldn't say that that is a synchronicity. I'd say that's just like, this is just something that happened, right? You
right.
texted someone, they didn't respond, right? Like that that's way different than the synchronicity, because when it's a true synchronicity, I believe you feel it here, right? You feel
100%. Yeah.
that's why like it'll move you to tears sometimes, like if it's a big if it's one that's like meaningful enough, like
Gives you goosebumps.
it gives you goosebumps, right? It's not, it doesn't be like, yep, you're right, the world is fucked, right? Like
Yeah.
that's not going to be a synchronicity. It's going to be, you know, a disempowering story that you made up based on what happened in your life.
Right. And that's a whole other conversation, which I'm sure we'll have at some point soon. Like there is the software, the mental software aspect of this, or the storytelling aspect of this, that is more of like you'll find the synchronicities to match the story you want to tell, if that makes sense.
Right.
Right.
And in that case, I don't view them as synchronicities, right?
Yeah, I got you.
They're
Yeah,
not empowering.
yeah,
And I don't care what, definition it is, like for all intents and purposes, like for practical application of all of this stuff, like if it's not empowering, it's not.
I see.
My standpoint, my
Yeah,
opinion.
I have a bit of a different, and I totally understand what you're saying there. And I think for you, you're saying synchronicity is more on the empowering half full side. And if it's not that, then you wouldn't, for your story, you wouldn't call it a synchronicity.
Sure.
I This is actually a point I wanted to cover, because again, because it works both ways. Like I was going to talk about how it feels like to me things almost pick up in intensity, momentum and frequency increases the more you feel into it. And so like as you're seeing the signs, and it's like there it is again, there it is again, it starts happening faster and faster. And it can go both ways. It's kind of like the when you have a bad day, and it could start off with spilling the coffee on your lap, and then
Right.
it's someone calls you with some bad news, and then it's like when
Like
it
your
rains it pours kind of thing, like
yeah, I do believe you attract that into your life.
yeah,
And I guess for me, we could be talking semantics here.
yeah,
Like if you want to take that and use it in an empowering way, what those signs are showing you is where your focus is.
yes,
Focus is on all the stuff I don't want. The focus is on the lack. The focus is on how I'm an uncoordinated human being and I suck at life,
yeah.
right? Like spill my coffee, stub my toe, right? Bad things happen.
Right,
And it's in order to turn that into an empowering synchronicity, which, I again, semantics, right?
yeah,
Like, yes, I do believe that those are connected, and also that you shouldn't take it as a sign to keep going that direction.
right,
Should be more of like, oh, here's a sign that I'm headed in this direction. This is where my focus is. So
yeah,
maybe I'll shift my focus till I start seeing the stuff I do want to see in my life.
right, yeah. And that's where I find it, that's even empowering too. If you really believe that what's happening is a result of how you're thinking and feeling, then if things aren't going your way, then maybe you should take a step and maybe have someone cut you off in traffic with a faith over fear, you know, reminder. But
Yeah,
to say, what, oh, I could just change I could change the story I'm telling. I can change how I'm feeling instantaneously. And again, maybe a conversation for another time. We have a whole bunch of tools to do that. But you could just say, oh, wow, okay, I should really, things aren't going right. it's an indication. Thanks, universe. I should really change how I'm vibrating right now. Right?
Last one I'm going to leave you with.
Yeah.
Even what we just talked about right now. So this morning, I'm running these conscious conversations groups, and next week's conversation is all about internal guidance system
Hmm.
and how you can, connect to your intuition and use your internal guidance system. And I've been thinking about it for the last few weeks of like, I understand the information. I have an idea of how to present it, but not very clearly. And this conversation just in general just painted that picture of like how to present it. So after I get off this call, I'm gonna sit here and write out basically
Cool.
what.
How synchronistic. Love it. Love it, man. Awesome. Well, I'll keep us honest on time. We're a little bit over our half hour that we said. We're trying to keep these short and sweet for everyone, but we just get so excited and want to talk about this stuff for hours. So thank you, Dan. Appreciate it as always. Thanks everyone for watching and or listening.